Hi friends, Justin here. Welcome to Essential Viewing, the sci-fi edition, which is one of my favorite genres. So let's go on an adventure together through what I'm describing as the expanse of science fiction cinema. We'll explore human imagination through genre icon The Twilight Zone, and modern American classics like Interstellar, Ad Astra, Contact, and many more. I've got honorable mentions and on and on. So I'm excited. Let's go. So two dates. One is important. One isn't. October 2nd, 1959. That's the date that The Twilight Zone first aired on broadcast television. And around May of 1992, that's when I first saw it, and it just, set off synapses and new connections in my brain. But just really quickly about The Twilight Zone. So the America that The Twilight Zone kind of premiered to, we had just come through two world wars. We were kind of in a post-war America. We were seeing unprecedented advances in science and technology. And to me, there's no wonder that, our fascination kind of turned to the stars and science fiction. Military and automotive industries started to spawn ancillary industries, parts and maintenance. And so the average Joe kind of had idle time to think for the first time in American history. And I think that's why the genre is kind of decidedly blue collar. If you think about the origins, the radio serials of the 20s and 30s, all the way through to Interstellar, they're often told from kind of an everyman perspective, kind of a blue collar perspective. And I think it's really fascinating. But let's get to the recommendations, and that is the first episode of The Twilight Zone. Where is everybody? I was about 7 years old when I first watched it. I had watched a lot of interesting things up to that point, like The Return to Oz and The Never-Ending Story. And so I was kind of ripe for these kind of rich stories, but I think at 7 years old, that the black and white imagery was kind of a hindrance to me watching it. But when I finally did, it was just like I said, it was like a revolution for me, I was confronted with concepts of imagination that I hadn't even considered. The concept of the episode is a man who wakes up in the middle of nowhere. He can't remember who he is, where he is, how he got there. In a town that is completely abandoned. But it looks like people were just there a few minutes ago. Sinks are running, fires are still lit, though, that kind of thing. Engines are still warm in vehicles, but there's no one to be found anywhere. And it is such a trip through, I would say, your own human imagination. As you're following this character, you're creating the thesis of what you think is going on. The only demerit or downside to the episode is that you finally do find out, what happens. But until then, you are absolutely on the edge of your seat thinking that it could be absolutely anything. And I think that episode 1 of The Twilight Zone is a perfect entry into the genre. Have any of you ever watched Where Is Everyone? First episode of The Twilight Zone. To me, it is the series' best. There aren't a lot of huge effects, but there's great acting. The concept is just brilliant, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's one of those things that you can only experience, the one time. So the next recommendation, and kind of moving through the eras, is Contact. And I think Contact came out around 1992. Jodie Foster, who is one of the masters of cinema, it's one of her Hallmark films. And it also captures, the essence of human imagination. It was something that we all watched at a certain period of time. And there was a decade where the film Contact was on network TV every weekend, on TNT or ABC. And it's truly, truly a fascinating film. And so, if you're going through my little recommended chronology of sci-fi, you'll check out perhaps, Jodie Foster's performance in Contact. It's such a time stamp and such a time marker of the 90s as well, The next recommendation that I have is Interstellar, which I think is one of the juggernauts of the genre. Matthew McConaughey, so many fantastic actors. Timothée Chalamet, one of his first roles, if not his first role. But that is such a mind-blowing experience. The only regret I have is that I never saw it in theaters. I watched it at home on a big screen, and it changed my life. It changed what I viewed as what was possible with sci-fi. That you could tell a compelling humanistic story as well as a compelling story about science and pushing the thinking of human understanding. And so I just thought conceptually it was brilliant. I thought from a thesis and a storytelling standpoint it was really great, and probably maybe going to be one of your favorites if it's a genre that you're exploring, but it's many of our favorites already. And to kind of round out the exploration or the introduction to the essential viewing of sci-fi is probably my pick of the bunch, and that is Ad Astra. I'm going to say it came out around 2018, but I do have to look and research to see when it came out. But I think it's the most recent of the bunch. Ad Astra with Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones. It's like a Twilight Zone episode. It's like it's like the dream of a Twilight Zone episode. If Rod Serling could see Ad Astra, I think he would just be in awe of what they were able to visually pull off. To me, it is a grand finale of being introduced to the genre of sci-fi. The performances are just brilliant. They're muted, and they remind me a lot of the Twilight Zone. As a matter of fact, you might want to go from the Twilight Zone episode 1 to Ad Astra just because of the similarity of themes and tones, but it's truly, truly brilliant. I have probably never had chills the way that I did watching Ad Astra. It's brilliant, it's urgent, and it's something that you need to see before too much time goes by and the effects are not as urgent. There's no set on Ad Astra. You're in space, It is, and the human story, between Tommy Lee Jones, who's one of the masters of acting, and Brad Pitt, who's also an amazing actor. The human drama is also equally compelling. And so Ad Astra, it reminds me in so many great ways of early sci-fi radio serials, and I think you'll love it. But there are so many great entries in the genre. 2016's Arrival is an honorable mention. The Alien franchise. One of my faves, Minority Report with Tom Cruise. Have any of you guys ever watched Minority Report? That one is fun. But I could go on and on for days, but I wanted to talk about the first episode of The Twilight Zone. I wanted to talk about Interstellar, Ad Astra, and Contact as great entry points into the genre and what I am calling essential viewing. So until next time, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Give this video a like, a comment, and please consider subscribing to my channel. Until next time, have a great day.